Guys, welcome to the new episode of the First Responder Playbook. I'm joined again by the great Sergeant V, DXI Training Solutions, and we are here to talk to you today about assessments in coaching. Um, as we've kind of touched on a little bit in the podcast, I do one-on-one coaching, group coaching. I do it not just for first responders, it's open to everybody, but I would say the people I mainly focus on are first responders. Because I think we've all been at that point in our career, life, leadership journeys, where we kind of need somebody to not tell us what to do, but to have you self reflect and get to where you need to be internally. Um, and so I think assessments are a valuable part of that. So, Sergeant V, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. This is thanks to your little Facebook post that you made talking about those personality assessments and how they can be used in leadership. So, how do you use them in your coaching business?
I think first and foremost, you have to know who you're coaching, because every person is different and how you would approach the coaching in general. But where that person wants to get to in life also matters. And so you kind of really need to know their background, their personality, where they want to be. I actually came across one probably about 6 months ago called Tilt365, and it's a very, I would say, expanded version of your typical personality assessment. But what I like about it is it's got so many expanded like personalities, different things in there that you can use to learn about the person. And I was very hesitant on trying it out when I first started using it. And they have what they call an amplifier for every person's personality. It's got, there's all kinds of stuff in there, and it basically expands on your traditional assessment and it breaks it down into a little bit deeper, but it makes it fun and it kind of gamifies your assessment, and it really catches your attention. And so it doesn't look just like a report that you would normally get from an assessment, and it's bright in colors and it's got cartoon characters with it, and it goes in very deep, but you'd be surprised how accurate it was. And I started reading my results, and I was like, man, this actually is me to a T. And ever since then, I've been a hooked believer in personality assessments.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those assessments, they can take anywhere from 20 questions up to a couple hundred questions, depending on how deep you really want to dive into that. But every person that I've ever met that's taken a personality assessment always has the same comment, and that's, how did this thing get so accurate? Especially with the shorter ones that are only like 20 questions. They read the results and they're just taken back, like, wait a minute, who was spying on me for the last 10 years while I took this? They were able to get so close to the things that motivate and drive the person just from a short little assessment. And I think that's one thing that really adds to the buy-in, is how accurate they truly are. Being able to hit the person at their core helps motivate them and get that buy-in.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just use this as an example. I've got my results pulled up on this one. It tells you it's got your connection tilt, an impact tilt, structure, or clarity. And what that boils down to is, what drives you? And so my tilt actually is the humanity. I'm driven by my heart as my top one, and then my spirit, my head is third, and my gut is fourth. And you think, okay, well, what does that mean to me? But when I sit down and think about that, I really am a lot of times driven by my heart because I want to help people. And, sometimes I don't trust my own gut. It's funny sometimes for a cop to say that, but, you know, that's definitely my weakest area, I think. But this is what I like about this assessment. It's got meta strengths on there. It says humanity and resilience are my meta strengths. It says, how do I define work? people and ideas. That is me to a T because I'm a big believer in chasing your dreams. Um, and you think about that and it says your inner motivators. It's belonging and individuality. Well, if anybody has ever met me, is I really enjoy being part of the group, but I'm also fiercely independent in I'm Brent Colbert to a T. And I will fit into the group, but I'm still going to keep my own, kind of like I said with you before we started, the flair. I've got my own flair, and it's not a bad thing. But everybody has these, and I don't think enough people know about them.
Oh, you're absolutely right. They're definitely underused in the realm of law enforcement. I remember the first couple times that I took personality assessments, they all had to do with some sort of leadership training. And one of them assigned me a couple of random letters that made absolutely no sense to me. And they tried to just briefly cover some things, but they didn't dive deep into it. And then another one assigned me different colors and said that I was, like a blue green or something like that. I don't even remember at this point. And to me, my mind made different associations to those colors. And so again, they didn't go dive real deep into what that personality assessment meant. And then years later, I finally get to one that really simplified it, and it made sense. It broke it down into the simplest terms possible, and it just clicked, like the light bulb went off. So, and the great thing about these personality assessments, they're not just for law enforcement, they're not just for first responders. Fortune 500 companies have been using personality assessments for decades. Crisis negotiators have been using it for decades. They just keep it in their back pocket and don't tell anybody that they're using it. There's all kinds of organizations out there that use it. If you think you're watching any kind of marketing, TV, commercials, all of that, it's all got some sort of personality used in it to help get buy-in, build rapport, and get people drawn into it. And that's how they get their product sold or get people's attention so that they'll watch the movies. So why can't we use that same information that everybody else is using, that Fortune 500 companies are paying big bucks for, to help us coach and motivate those officers that we just at first glance don't understand, because maybe we're not so people oriented like yourself. I know me, I'm not a very people oriented person. It is a challenge some days to understand people. I sit back and just want to beat my head against a brick wall and go, oh my God, what is up with this person? Why can't they just understand the mission, the goal, the objective, and let's drive forward? But you, on the other hand, you meet somebody and you feel it and you
Yep.
understand them. And so it's easier for you. But
Yeah.
personality assessments give us that check the box system to understanding them, so that a person like myself who doesn't understand people can actually understand what's driving and motivating them.
Yeah, and you touch on that because it's so true in that that is how you build successful teams. And you think about this in that you're usually gravitating to people that are similar to you.
Mhm.
And you think, okay, the best way I can build this team is to get a bunch of people just like me. But in actuality, you need people of different personality strengths and how they operate and how they work to be able to whole person build your team to tackle it in the totality of the circumstances. And I fall back on this one in law enforcement terms in that if you're a shift supervisor and you're building a team, do you want a bunch of guys that are just going to be proactive all shift? That's great on paper. But in actuality, then who's taking the calls? Who's out there interacting with the citizens, making that positive image? And there's different ways to skin a cat. Yeah, you can catch criminals by being proactive, but the public will be more inclined to give you information to catch those criminals even further if you have people out interacting with them and getting involved in the community. And so you use those together and use those people to get the good information and the proactive people to solve the issue, and voila, you've solved a crime. And I think it's just you've got to put all the ingredients together to make the cake.
Yeah, I like that. The old saying, birds of a feather flock together, is very true when it comes to personalities. people of like personalities. I see it in my classes all the time. They'll walk in, they'll have a seat, and then somebody else will walk in the room, and they'll look around, and then they'll eyeball their buddy, and they'll sit down next to them. And then when they get their personality assessments, they're almost mirror images of each other because they are so much alike. They like each other because they are so similar in their core values, which is what comes out in the personality assessment. And so, yeah, it would be great if a perfect team could be made of just nothing but the same people. But like you said, it takes all sorts to build a department. Not everybody wants to be that traffic cop who goes down and checks out every little single detail and logs every tiny little thing, right? Not every officer wants to go out there and be the PIO and interact with the people and go to the big community events. And likewise, not every officer wants to be the SWAT guy who goes out and kicks in doors and has some fun, right? It takes different personalities for every job. And so you got to build a well-rounded team.
Absolutely. So what is your favorite assessment?
Ooh, well, the one I use the most is through people keys. It keeps it pretty simple and it breaks it down into the 4 basic personalities, D, I, S, and C, the dominant, the inspirational, the selfless, and the cautious individuals. And from there, those letters help you connect mentally with different words that start with that letter that help describe the traits and values that that person brings out. And the reason I like that so much is because it's easy to make the connection. There's no mistake as to what they're talking about. When they say, oh, this person's a dominant individual, we all know what a dominant individual looks like. But if I were to say, oh, this person's a red individual, well, that could mean different things. A red person to you might mean somebody who's aggressive or dominant, where red to another person might say, well, red is the color of passion, of love. So maybe they're emotional.
Or stop?
Yeah. So exactly. Where do you draw the line? Where do you make the connection? So that's why I don't like the colors as much. I prefer the letters because they give it a word and it connects and there's no mistaking what it means. It's easier for me as a supervisor to understand, and it's easier for anybody taking the test to understand. So we can all get on the same page a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I like the DISC assessment for sure. And the Tilt 365 is very similar to the DISC. I feel like maybe it's just an expanded version of that a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but then again, it also goes back to you have to keep it simple enough that people understand. And so there is a good sweet spot in there in how you use those. My favorite one probably is the emotional intelligence assessment, and it's a scale from strongly agree to neutral to strongly disagree. And I asked you, a series of questions. I think there's 20 if I remember right. But it basically is your way of how you handle your emotions when dealing with people.
Mhm.
And it builds a profile based on how you answer your questions. And I was actually very surprised because I felt like I was a highly emotional, intelligent person, and I was. And I'll tell you why I was surprised with that, because even though I knew I was, I self-doubted myself a lot. And sometimes, I'm always worried about, well, maybe I shouldn't, react this way, or maybe I should interact with this person this way. This assessment helps you build those values and how you interact with other people, in your workplace, in your home life, in your leadership roles.
Mhm.
And I think it's important that people know how to interact with other people on a regular basis.
Yeah, I like that. That one probably connects well with you because of the emotional aspect. You're more of a emotional person, right? But little tidbit about personality assessments is they all go back to William Moulton Marston's original work, which was created back in 1928, I believe it was. It actually started in 1925, but he wrote a book called The Emotions of Normal People. And in that, he outlined how to determine somebody's personality. And then he expanded on that from there. And all these personality assessments are based upon his original work, but it has to deal with your emotions. So, little history on that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are great tidbits to know, because people want to know where this stuff comes from, and that there is, research and science behind them. And every journey starts somewhere, and now these people go back to the original and build off on that.
And
So,
here's a real
um,
here's a real quick thing to build some credibility for William Moulton Marston. He wasn't just some scientist, right? He was actually famous for two other things besides the traditional DISC assessment. He was famous for being known as the father of the modern lie detector. He actually created the blood pressure cuff, and he figured out that when people were lying, there was a change in blood pressure. And so he was one of the creators of the modern lie detector. And the other thing he was famous for was he was a co-creator of Wonder Woman,
like the superhero.
the superhero. Remember, think back, what was her tool of choice?
God, it's been so long since I've seen Wonder Woman. You're gonna fill me in on this one.
It was the lasso of truth. It was a hint to his invention, the lie detector.
Yeah, now that you say that, when you said that, yeah, you're right. It was. Okay, you learn something new every day. So let me ask you this. You know, you're a very good, grounded coach in your own right. What is one good thing that an assessment does in a coaching situation?
Oh, the best benefit that I have found is that it helps you get to the effective level of communication for that person quicker. So instead of having to guess and try different techniques with somebody, by understanding their personality, you can get to a level of communication with them where you have rapport and understanding almost instantaneously so that you can be more effective in that communication. It allows you to help guide them on their journey without seeming like you're pushing them in the right direction. You're guiding them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to expand on that in that it also helps people find out things that they necessarily may not see in themselves as well. Because there are a lot of things that we are probably very good at or maybe bad at that we don't realize because we do it all the time. And these assessments are great at, I don't want to say pointing out flaws, but they could also point out strengths. Um, and so you realize things about yourself that you may not know and or you may not realize. And so I think those are both great points in how they can be used in coaching to better your individuals. Because I think a lot of people they think of your traditional football coach or basketball coach, and there is a lot of advice giving in that. But a coach in a traditional sense of life, career, leadership coaching, they don't want to hold your hand and lead you. They want you to self reflect and have yourself pushed to get to the journey of where you want to be. Because 99% of the time, you have what you need to succeed already in you. You just have to realize it. And so there's a lot less advice giving in coaching and more self reflection and pushing yourself to better.
Yeah, I like that. That's one reason why I use personality assessments in my officer self control course. It allows the officers to see the areas where they are most likely to get their hot buttons pushed so that they can have that self awareness sooner before somebody actually hits that hot button and pisses them off. But yeah, it absolutely brings up strengths and weaknesses, room for improvement, however you want to phrase it, whatever the politically correct term is. But definitely good for that internal self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you slow down and think about it for a minute, when we have succeeded very highly in our careers, did we succeed more when somebody held our hands and guided us to where we needed to go by holding that hand? Or did we succeed more when they pushed us to get there on our own? And so that's where I think coaching is valuable in that I want somebody to push me to better myself. I don't want them to drag me there. I don't want to be, given a spot because, they need a warm body. I want to be pushed to be the best and to better myself. And that's what a coach truly does.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings is a coach is somebody who inspires change.
I can get on board with that 100%.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things about the personality assessments. It helps them figure out how to inspire people to
Yep.
make that change.
Well, let me ask you this as we wrap up. What is one thing that you're going to do over the next 6 months to coach somebody to change their lives? Like what's something you want to implement, like idea wise, to help better yourself as a coach?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. How do I want to better myself as a coach?
Yeah,
Well,
to help others.
to help others.
Yep.
Well, I'm actually looking at partnering up with another organization in the realm of that leadership training. And if that comes through, I'll be able to provide those services and get some more leadership coaching out there to law enforcement first responders.
That's awesome. I love it. I think my goal for the next 6 months to would be to better get my message out there to help coach others. I truly enjoy coaching, and without getting that out there, I really don't. If you have a gift and you don't share it, what's the point of having it? And so I truly want to just get my message out there to help others in this coaching realm and to better myself because the only way you're going to get better is practice it. And then I can help others push themselves, and it's just like then they can push somebody else to better themselves, and you start getting that message slowly out there of, hey, we're going to make this world a better place at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Sergeant V, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you soon for our next topic.
All right, go inspire some change.